everyone, welcome back to Did It Work? My name is Nina, and today I'm making Maya Angelou's caramel cake. This is on page 18 and 19 of her cookbook, Hallelujah, The Welcome Table, A Lifetime of Memories with Recipes. I'm going to show you the picture of this cake. This is what the cake is supposed to look like at the end. I'm hoping and praying that this works because I've never made a caramel cake, and we're making the caramel syrup and the caramel icing from scratch, and I've never done either. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a heavy skillet and it's over low heat, and I'm going to heat up 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to stir this constantly until it melts to a brown liquid. While this is happening, I'm going to go ahead and stir it constantly, but I'm going to go ahead and get the ingredients for the cake together as well. All right, so I'm about 10 minutes into this, and you can clearly see this is starting to turn brown. It's starting to melt and kind of clump up. And so I'm going to keep going, stirring this constantly on low, and this should start to liquefy. So I'm about 20 minutes in. The one thing that I really wanted to say is the smell of this is amazing. Okay, you can see this is starting to liquefy. I did not realize this is how long it took to do this. This is all new for me. If you guys know a faster way to do this, please put it in the comments. Okay, I'm loving the results. This is starting to completely liquefy now. This is starting to stick to my wooden spatula. I think I am realizing how to make caramel right about now. But we're making syrup, so we will be adding some boiling water. So make sure you're getting your water boiling because we're going to have to start using it here soon. Okay, so I will tell you honestly, I have lost track of time of how long this has taken me, but I can 100% tell you that this has taken me at minimum 30 minutes on low heat to get this into a liquid. So now that I have got this into a liquid, again, I have my boiling water over here ready to go. When it bubbles over the entire surface, I will then remove it from the heat and start slowly adding the boiling water. Okay, so I hope you guys can see this. You see, it is bubbling over the entire surface. So move it from the heat, and I'm going to just pull it over to the side. I'm going to get my 1 cup of boiling water, and I'm going to slowly add this boiling water, stirring constantly. Woo. Maybe that's why I needed to add it slowly. Did you see how that just boiled up and started bubbling? It's kind of neat, I must say. I've never done this before. I'm kind of liking this. So this is a syrup that we're making. So we're really thinning this out. And this has to be boiling because if this is not boiling water, your sugar will harden when you put the water in there. So this is why the water has to be boiling. Now, before I add more, I'm incorporating the water so I don't just have little pools of water everywhere. That was some hot sugar, I'm going to tell you that much. Okay, still stirring. And I have a mason jar that I have waiting at the side that I will be putting this in so I can let this cool. So this is done. Here's my container. Pour it in there. Don't burn yourself. If you have a funnel, you might want to use it. I'm not going to touch this with my hand because, as we know, it is hot. Wipe off the bottom so it doesn't stick to my counter. And I'm going to set it aside for it to cool. Okay, so since I still have sugar at the bottom of my skillet, I just filled my skillet halfway up with water, and I'm going to put it on low on the back burner so the rest of that sugar can melt off of there and I can get it off. And I'm going to throw my wooden spoon, stick it in that water, and let it sit there so it will dissolve off of that spoon. As well, in the water, let's go over, start the cake. So I have my syrup over here to my right, cooling in a mason jar. So now I'm going to go ahead and start the cake mix. So the first thing that I need to do is get my cake pans prepared. So I have 3 8-inch, 9-inch cake pans that I have lined with grease wax paper. So in a large mixing bowl, I'm going to beat butter, turning it on to medium. I'm going to put my guard on here, and now I'm going to gradually add in my 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to gradually add in this 1 cup of sugar until it's light and fluffy. Turned it up kind of more to a medium. I had it on a low. Okay, so I have this light and fluffy. So we have the caramel syrup here, and I have 1/4 of a cup. But as I told you guys, when I finished it, I put mine into a mason jar. That way I can just throw this in the refrigerator and I have it for future uses. Okay, so with this 1/4 cup of caramel syrup, I am going to beat this into the egg and butter mixture that I have. So I'm going to turn this back on. I'm going to start off on low so I don't splatter all over me, even though I have a splash guard. Okay, so I couldn't help myself but to taste this. This has a really nutty taste to it, so this is kind of good. So after that, I'm going to turn this off because we're about to get a whole nother bowl. But first, I need to scrape the sides. But this is a really nice kind of a brown color that we have, and that's because of that caramel syrup that we put in there. So I'm kind of liking this. I'll show you in just a second. If you realize that you don't have all the butter and sugar mixture combined, just start your mixer back up and get that all combined in here. But this is what it looks like. So it's a nice little, I don't know, caramel color. How funny. All right, so let's move on. So in a medium mixing bowl, we're going to sift the flour. So I already have the flour in my sifter and it's 2 cups. So I'm gonna just sift this into my medium bowl. And it wants me to also put in the baking powder and the salt in there. And I'm gonna sift those together. All right, if you have little beads, just throw them away. All right, we're going to get the mixer back out. And I'm going to add these dry ingredients and the milk, alternating them into this butter mixture. I'm going to start with the flour and I'm going to end with the milk. So however you do that, figure that one out, okay? And I'm getting a spoon to use to put it in here to make the mess as minimal as possible. But we already know I will make a mess. All right, turn this on. And here we go. So I'm going to put in a couple of, then I'm going to add, and I have a cup, 1 cup of milk. So I'm going to just pour a little bit of that in there. And I'm going to let that incorporate before I start adding any more. And then I'm going to repeat. And again, end with the milk. No matter what you do, end with your milk. Okay, so I put in my last thing of flour. And before I add the last of my milk, I want to scrape my sides in case I have some unincorporated ingredients stuck to the side. That milk will help moisten it before I start going on. And I also have some flour that's kind of stuck to the top of my mixing bowl that I'm also just going to scrape down into my mixture so that I can get it all incorporated nicely. I don't have any dry spots when I'm done. All right, so let's finish up with the milk. I'm gonna get my whisk, and it tells me that in a separate bowl, I need to beat my eggs for about 3 minutes. So this is now going to go off. Yes, some people would beat this by hand. I am not some people. So I'm actually going to use my hand mixer. All right, guys. So if you're like me, you have a hand mixer as well as a KitchenAid. So I'm going to beat my eggs for about 3 minutes with my hand mixer until they're nice and foamy. All right, so that's 3 minutes. And see how foamy those are? And that's what I wanted. So I'm going to take the remaining 1/4 cup of sugar that I didn't put in the batter originally and mix it into the eggs and incorporate that until it has a nice, fine, spongy foam on it. So just another couple of minutes. All right, so I have a nice, fine foam on that. And now I'm going to blend this into my batter, and I'm going to do it on low. Okay, and if I didn't tell you at the beginning, your oven should be on 375. I just feel like the batter looks a little bit broken, so I'm going to incorporate until I think it doesn't look that way. So I'm going to put it on medium. Yeah, this is looking a little bit better. All right. This looks a lot better, guys. All right, see if I can divide this into 3 different ones. Always scrape the bottom of your bowl because you can incorporate anything that was left now versus getting it all in your cake pans and then you find a glob of stuff at the bottom. You can do this with only 2 pans. You don't have to do 3. I am going to try to do 3 even if I have thinner layers because I think it's pretty. Spread them out a little bit. So we already know that if this doesn't turn out, then it's me and not my Angelou because every other recipe that I've done of hers has turned out. So if this doesn't work, I'll do it again and I'll try to make it right. I've got that. Now, after you put your cakes in the cake pan, no matter what cake you're doing, you want to get the air bubbles out. Easiest way to get the air bubbles out is to slam it. Not only does it get the air bubbles out, it levels out your cakes. When I was younger and I did these, I used to just take the cakes just a little bit above the floor and drop them. If you have glass pans, don't do that. So you can see the bubbles coming up, and I kind of do it until the bubbles stop popping. So now I'm gonna put these in the oven kind of in the middle for 25 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to start on the caramel frosting since we have the cakes in the oven. The first thing that we're going to do is get a heavy pot and put it over medium heat. And I'm going to put my stick of butter because we're going to make brown butter. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We need to be vigilant to make sure that this isn't burned. So we want brown butter, not black butter. After that, we will allow it to cool. So make sure you're making this either before you start the cake or while the cake is in the oven. So while the cake is cooling, your brown butter is cooling. So by the time you're ready to ice it, everything's cooled at the same time. Okay, so you can see now my butter is starting to really bubble. This is where I'm really going to have to be vigilant to not let it burn. I want it to be brown to get that nutty taste. Don't want a burnt, bitter taste. So you really have to be careful and keep an eye on it. All right, this is starting to brown. So I'm really going to stay right here with it. It should start giving you kind of like almost a nutty smell to it. Mine is brown. I'm turning the fire out. You see that? Yeah, you can kind of see that. That brownness is what I want. This is the first time I've ever browned butter, so hopefully I did it right. Now we need to let this cool, taking this completely off of the burner. So here's my cake. So the way to check to see if it's done, you push in the center of it and it springs back, then the cake is done. I don't know if you could see that, but I pushed in the center of it, sprung back, so you're not seeing my fingerprint. So I'm taking these out and putting them on a cooling rack. So if your cake did not spring back, go ahead and stick it back in the oven for another 10 minutes and then check it again. So we're going to cool the cakes for 10 minutes. All right, so I put this in a clear container so you can see my butter is brown. I'm going to turn these out onto this cookie sheet lined in parchment paper because apparently I don't have a cake plate anymore since I moved. So before I take mine out, I just take a knife and go along the edges of it to try to help it not stick to the edges and come out in one piece. Because I am doing this on film, watch it break. So I'm going to try the first one and see what happens. Got to take it and peel off the wax paper. We can throw those away. Okay, so while the cakes are starting to cool, we're going to go ahead and do our caramel frosting. And we're going to use that brown butter that we made earlier and let cool. I am using my hand mixer. I put my KitchenAid away while the cakes were baking. So in large mixing bowl, we're going to add the 8-ounce package of confectionery sugar or powdered sugar. We're going to add 4 tablespoons of cream to it, heavy cream. Then I'm going to have 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. The pinch, salt balances out flavors, by the way. And then I'm going to add the butter, and I'm going to beat it while I'm adding the butter. It's going in small circles so the sugar doesn't fly everywhere. So I am done with the icing. I'm going to scrape the sides of it. And I'm already going to let you guys know I like icing. This icing is not going to be enough. So I will end up making another batch because this isn't enough icing for a cake for me. I can really taste the brown butter in this, and it has a very interesting flavor to it. I've never really had brown butter. So when people would say the nutty taste, I really didn't understand what they mean, but now I get it. So this is a very unique frosting for me. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just very unique, and I can taste that nutty flavor. So I'm very interested to see what you guys think. All right, let's see what's next. All right, so this is going to be my cake platter because I don't have one, and we're going to kind of start icing this. It says to put a generous amount of icing on the first layer and start frosting, but to me, I don't think we have a generous amount, so I'm going to just put some on there, and if I need to make some more, I will. So we're going to see how far we get. My mic died, but right now I am beginning to frost the cakes with the icing that we just made. I now am putting on the second layer, and on that second layer, I did have a part of it that got a little bit overcooked, and so it's hard. So I'm going to take that caramel syrup that we made at the beginning, and I'm just going to spoon it, or you can brush it, either one, over the hard part to soften it up so that when I'm eating the cake, it's got to go unnoticed. Now, you can also do this with just making a simple syrup and just put it on there. You can also use any type of alcohol, sometimes to just pour over it, like rum of rum cake or anything like that that would moisten that cake. Now, with this, I went ahead and started pouring it all over that second layer. And I just wanted to do that just to give that second layer a little bit more moisture, just because that one side did overcook. I didn't want to risk that entire layer of cake being dry. And it's also going to give some more of that caramel taste, since that is that caramel syrup. You could do it all the way through all three layers of the cake, but I'm only concentrating on that one layer of cake. And now I'm putting on another layer of icing. As I'm putting this on, I am starting to realize that I'm getting low on icing. So here is now the last layer of my three layers, and I'm putting it on there, and I'm going to finish icing my cake. Okay, so welcome to the tasting table. So here is the cake. Don't mind my icing. I kind of just threw it on here. And yes, I did end up making two batches because one batch was not enough for me. So double the recipe, or if you don't like a lot of icing, you'll be fine. All right, there it is. That turned out to be a nice little piece that lifted out of there. All right, here it goes. Okay, so this has an interesting flavor to it. When I heard caramel cake, I was thinking this was going to taste like caramel, be sticky like caramel, but this really doesn't have any caramel in it. The nutty brown butter is really what is prominent in here. So if brown butter is a flavor that you like, you will love this cake. The cake is moist. It did bake really, really well. I don't have complaints about the cake. This recipe is exactly what it was supposed to taste like. So I do believe it's a good recipe. And I will also want to say too, since I am making a cake, happy birthday, Victoria. It is March 1st that I am making this video. And right now, I do believe you are at dinner with the young ones and Lexi. So happy birthday. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up. As always, love with your heart, cook with your soul. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.